Susie, Shelley and Al, Sebastian, Carrie, and many others too numerous to mention. The name of our town is Grover's Corners, New Hampshire, just over the line from Massachusetts. Latitude 42 degrees 40 minutes, longitude 70 degrees 37 minutes. The first act shows a day in our town. The date is May 7, 1901, just before dawn. Yeah. Well, sky is beginning to show some streaks of light over in the east there, back of our mountain. The morning star always gets wonderful bright the minute before it has to go. Well, now I'll show you how our town lies. Up here is Main Street. Cutting across it over there on the left is the railroad tracks. Across the tracks is Polish Town. You know, foreign people that come here to work in the mill, a couple of Canuck families, and the Catholic Church. Congregational Church is over there. Presbyterians across the street. Methodist, Unitarian are over there. Baptist is down in the hollow by the river. Next to the post office there is the town hall. Jail is in the basement. Brian once made a speech from those steps there. All along Main Street there's a row of stores, horse blocks, and hitching posts in front of them. First automobile is going to come along in about 5 years. Belonged to banker Cartwright, our town's richest citizen. Lives up in a big white house up there on the hill. Here's the grocery store. And Mr. Morgan's drugstore. Most everybody in town manages to look into these stores once a day. This is our doctor's house, Doc Gibbs. Here's the back door. And here are a couple of trellises for those that feel they have to have scenery. This is Mrs. Gibbs' garden. Corn, peas, beans, hollyhocks, heliotrope, and a lot of burdock. In those days, our newspapers came out twice a week, the Grover's Corners Sentinel. And this is Edna Webb's house. And this is Mrs. Webb's garden. Well, it's just like Mrs. Gibbs, only it's got a lot of sunflowers, too. Right here is a big butternut tree. Nice town. You know what I mean? Nobody very remarkable ever come out of it, as far as we know. Earliest dates on the tombstones up there in the cemetery say 1660. They're Grovers and Cartwrights and Gibbses and Pershys. Same names as around here now. Well, as I said, it's early morning. Only lights on in town are in a cottage over by the tracks where a Polish mother has just had twins. And at the Joe Crowell house, where Joe Jr. is getting ready to deliver the morning papers. And at the depot, where Shorty Hawkins is getting ready to flag the 545 for Boston. Yeah, there she is. Naturally, out in the country all around, they've been lights on for some time, what with milking and so on. But coming down Main Street now, coming back from that baby case. And here's his wife, come downstairs to get breakfast. Doc Gibbs died in 1930. New hospital's named after him. Mrs. Gibbs died first, a long time ago, in fact. She went out to visit her daughter, Rebecca, who married an insurance man in Canton, Ohio, and died there. Pneumonia. But her body was brought back here. She's up there in the cemetery now, in with a whole mess of Gibbses and Hersheys. Oh, she was Julia Hershey before she married Doc Gibbs in the Congregational Church over there. In our town, we like to know the facts about everybody. Well, there's Mrs. Webb, come downstairs to get her breakfast too. There's Doc Gibbs, got the call to go to Polish Town at 1:30 this morning. Here comes Joe Crowell, delivering Mr. Webb's Sentinel.
Oh, good morning, Doc.
Morning, Joe.
Did you like your paper now?
Yes, I'll take it.
Anybody been sick, Doc?
No, a couple of twins over in Polish Town. Say, Joe, I hear your teacher, Miss Foster's getting married.
Oh, yes, to a fellow over in Concord.
I declare. How do you boys feel about that?
Well, of course, it ain't none of my business. But I think once someone starts out to be a teacher, they ought to stay one.
How's your knee, Joe?
Oh, it's fine, Doc. Never think about it at all. Only like you said, it always tells me when it's going to rain.
What's it telling you today? Is it going to rain?
No, sir.
You sure?
Yes, sir.
Knee ever make a mistake?
No, sir.
I want to tell you something about that boy, Joe Crowell there. Joe was awful bright. Graduated from the high school here, head of his class. So, he got a scholarship to go to Boston Technical. MIT, that is. Graduated head of his class from there, too. It was all written up in the Boston papers at the time. Going to be a great engineer, Joe was. But the war broke out, and he died in France. Yes, sir. All of that education for nothing. What business he had picking a quarrel with the Germans, we can't make out to this day. But it all seemed perfectly clear to us at the time.
Get up, Bessie. What's the matter with you?
Here comes Howie Newsom delivering the milk.
Morning, Doc.
Morning, Howie.
Somebody sick?
No, a pair of twins over at Mrs. Garslowski.
Twins, eh? This town's getting bigger every year.
Howie, it's going to rain today.
Nah, fine day. It'll burn through. Stay, Bessie.
Hello, Bessie. Howie, how old is she?
Going on 17. Bessie's all mixed up about the route, though. Ever since the Lockhart stopped taking their quarter milk every day, she wants to leave McCourt just the same. Keeps scolding me the whole trip.
Oh, good morning, Howie.
Morning, Miss Gibbs. Doc's just coming down the street.
Is he? Seems like you're late today.
Something wrong with the separator. Don't know what it was.
Children, time to get up.
Doc?
Howie?
George, Rebecca. Oh,
Come on, Bessie.
all right, Frank?
I declare. These yes kittens.
I'm thinking it'll be ready in a minute. Sit down and drink your coffee. You can catch a couple hours of sleep this morning, can't you?
Mrs. Wentworth's going by at 11. Guess I know what it's about, too. Her stomach isn't what it used to be.
You won't get more than 3 hours sleep all told. Frank Gibbs, I don't know what's to become of you. I do wish you would go away someplace and take a rest. It would do you good.
Emily, time to get up. Wally, it's 7 o'clock.
I declare, you've got to speak to George. Seems like something's come over him lately. Why, he's no help to me at all. I can't even get him to cut me some wood.
Is he sassy to you?
No, he just whines.
on you.
Wally, you're going to be late for school.
Guess I'll go upstairs and bake 40 wings.
Wally, you wash yourself good or I'll come up there and do it myself.
Ma! What dress shall I wear?
Don't make a noise. Your father's been out all night. He needs his rest. I washed and ironed your blue gingham for you special.
Oh, I hate that dress.
What's up with you?
Every day I go to school dressed like a big turkey.
Now remember, see the battlefields of the Civil War, and that's enough treat for anybody he's there.
Well, Mr. Webb just admires the way Dr. Gibbs knows everything about the Civil War. He has a mind to move over from Napoleon to the Civil War. Only Dr. Gibbs being one of the greatest experts just makes him despair.
In fact, the doctor is never so happy as when we're at Antietam or Gettysburg. I can't tell you the number of times I've walked those hills, stopping at every bush, teasing it all out like we was going to buy the place.
Well, Julia, if that second-hand man's really serious about buying it, you sell it. Then you'll get to see Paris, all right. Just keep dropping hints. That's how guys do the Atlantic Ocean, you know.
Well, I don't know. But it seems to me that once in your life before you die, you ought to visit a country where they don't speak English. And they don't even want to.
Thank you very much, ladies. Now, we'll skip a few hours. But first, we want a little more information about our town. Kind of a scientific account, you might say. So, I've asked Professor Willard of our state university to sketch in a few details of our past history here. Professor Willard?
Yes.
May I introduce Professor Willard of our state university. Just a few brief notes, Professor. Thank you. Unfortunately, our time is limited.
Grover's Corners. Let me see. Grover's Corners lies on the old Pliocene granite of the Appalachian Range. I may say it's some of the oldest land in the world. We're very proud of that around here. Of course, there are some more recent outcroppings. Sandstone, showing through a shelf of Devonian basalt, and some vestiges of Mesozoic shale, but these are comparatively new, perhaps 200 or 300 million years. Some highly interesting fossils have been found 2 miles north of the Peckham Farm in Peckham's. These may be seen at the university and the museum at any time, but that is at any reasonable time. Shall I read some of Professor Gruber's notes on the meteorological situation, main precipitation, etc.?
Well, I'm afraid we won't have time for that, Professor. We might have a few words on the history of man here. Well, you know.
Anthropological data.
Yes.
Early Amerindian stock. Cotahatchee tribes. No evidence before the 10th century of this era. Now entirely disappeared. Oh, perhaps traces in 3 families. Migration in the early part of the 17th century of English brachycephalic blue-eyed stock. Since then, some Slav and some Mediterranean and some...
And the population. The population, Professor Willard?
Within the town limits, 2,640.
Oh, just a moment, Professor.
Oh, yes. The population at the moment is 2,642. The postal district brings in 507 more, making a total of 3,149. Mortality, birth rate, constant. I'm at Pearson's age, 6.032.
Thank you very much, Professor. I know we're all very much obliged to you.
Not at all, sir, not at all.
Now, the political and social report.
80% Democrats, 4% socialists, rest indifferent. Religiously, we're 85% Protestants, 12% Catholics, rest indifferent.
Have you any comments, Mr. Webb?
Pretty ordinary town, if you ask me. A little better behaved than most. Probably a lot duller. But our young folks seem to like it well enough. 90% of them graduating from high school settle down right here to live, even after they've been away to college.
Now, is there anyone in the audience who would like to ask Editor Webb any questions about our town?
Is there much drinking in Grover's Corners?
Well, ma'am, there ain't much. Saturday night, some of the farmhands gather down at Elliott Greenhouse stable and they holler some. We also have one or two town drums, but they're always getting remorses whenever an evangelist comes to town. No, I wouldn't say that liquor is a regular thing in the home here. Oh, except in the medicine chest. It was right good for a snake bite. Always was.
Excuse me. Is there no one in town aware
Oh,
of social...
come on down front where we can all hear you. Come on down. Now, what was it you wanted to ask?
Is there no one in town aware of social injustice and industrial inequality?
Oh, yes, everybody is. Something terrible. Seems like they spend most of their time talking about who's rich and who's poor.
Why don't they do something about it?
Well, I don't know. You know, I guess we're all hungry, just like everybody else, but a way that the diligent and sensible can rise to the top, and the lazy and quarrelsome can sink to the bottom. But it ain't easy to find. In the meantime, we do what we can to help those that can't help themselves, and those that can, we pretty much leave alone. Are there any other questions?
Mr. Webb,
Yes, ma'am.
is there any culture, love, and beauty in Grover's Corners?
Not much, ma'am. Not much culture. Not in the sense that you mean. Oh, come to think of it, there are a couple girls that play piano down at the high school commencement, but they ain't happy about it. But maybe this is the time to tell you that we do have pleasures of a kind here. We like to watch the sun come up over the mountain in the morning, and we all notice a great deal about the birds. We pay a lot of attention to them. We also notice the changes of the seasons. But those other things, you're right, ma'am. There ain't much. Robinson Crusoe, the Bible, Handel's Largo, everybody knows about that. Listener's mother. But that's about as far as we go.
Thank you, Mr. Webb. Now, we'll go back to town. It's 2 o'clock. All 2,642 have had their lunches, and all the dishes have been washed. The children have gone back to school. There's a buzzing and humming from the school buildings. Only a few buggies on Main Street, horses dozing at the hitching posts. There's an early afternoon calm about town. You all remember what it's like. Doc Gibbs is in his office, tapping people and making them say, ah. Mr. Webb is cutting his lawn over there. 1 man in 10 thinks it's a privilege to push his own lawnmower.
I can't, Lois. I've got to go home and help my mother. I promise.
Emily, walk simply. Who do you think you are today?
Oh, Papa, you're terrible. One minute you tell me to stand straight, and the next you're calling me names. I just don't listen to you.
Golly, I never got a kiss from such a great lady before.
From my window up there, I can just see your head every night when you're doing your homework over in your room.
Why, can you?
You certainly do stick to it, Emily. I don't see how you can sit still that long. Well, I guess you must like school.
I figure it's just something you have to go through.
Yeah,
I don't mind it, really. It passes the time.
yeah. Emily, what do you think? We might work out a kind of telegraph from your window to mine. And once in a while, you could give me a kind of hint or two about one of those algebra problems. I don't mean the answers, Emily. Of course not. Just some little hints.
Oh, well, maybe hints are allowed. So if you get stuck, George, you whistle to me and I'll give you a hint.
Emily, you're just naturally bright, I guess.
I figure it's just the way a person's born.
Yeah. But you see, I want to be a farmer. And my Uncle Luke says, whenever I'm ready, I can just come over and work on his farm. And if I'm any good, I can just gradually have it.
You mean the house and everything?
Yeah. Well, I better be getting out to the baseball field. Thanks for the talk, Emily. Oh, good afternoon, Mrs. Webb.
Good afternoon, George.
So long, Emily.
So long, George.
Emily, come and help me string some of these beans in the winter. Well, George Gibbs let himself have a real conversation, didn't he? Why, he's growing up. How old was George Gibbs?
Oh, I don't know.
Let's see. He must be going on 16.
Mama, I made a speech in class tonight and I was very good.
Well, you'll have to recite it for your father tonight at supper. What was it about?
The Louisiana Purchase. It was like silk off the school. I'm going to make speeches all my life. Mama, are these big enough?
Try to get him a little bigger if you can.
Mama, will you answer me a question? Serious?
Seriously, dear, not serious.
Seriously. Will you?
Of course I will.
Mama, am I good looking?
Yes, of course you are. Both my children got good features. I'd be ashamed if they hadn't.
No, what I mean is, am I pretty?
I've already told you yes, not enough of that. You have a nice, young, pretty face. Never heard such foolishness.
Oh, Mama, you never told the truth about anything.
I am telling you the truth.
Mama, were you pretty?
Yes, I was pretty. I was the prettiest girl in town. Next to Mamie Cartwright.
Oh, Mama, you've got to say something about me. Am I pretty enough to get anybody, to get people interested in me?
Emily, you make me tired now. Stop it. You're pretty enough for all normal purposes. Come along and bring that bowl with you.
Oh, Mama, you're no help at all.
Now, I think this is a good time to tell you that the Cartwright interests have just begun building a new bank in Grover's Corners. Had to go to Vermont for the marble, sorry to say. And they've asked a friend of mine what they should put in the cornerstone for people to dig up 1,000 years from now. Of course, they put in a copy of the New York Times and a copy of Mr. Webb's Sentinel. Well, we're kind of interested in this because some scientific fellas have found a way of painting all that reading matter with a special kind of glue, silicate glue, that'll make it keep 1,000, 2,000 years. Of course, we put in a Bible and a copy of the Constitution of the United States and a copy of William Shakespeare's plays. What do you say, folks? What do you think? You know, Babylon once had 2 million people in it. kings and some copies of some wheat contracts and the sales of slaves. Yeah? Every night, all of those families sat down to supper, and the father came home from his work, and the smoke went up the chimney, same as here. And even in Greece and Rome, all we know about the real life of people is what we can piece together out of the joking poems and the comedies they wrote for the theater back then. So, I'm going to have them put a copy of this play in the cornerstone, so the people 1,000 years from now will know a few simple facts about us, more than the Treaty of Versailles and the Lindbergh flight. See what I mean? So, people 1,000 years from now, this is the way we were in the provinces north of New York at the beginning of the 20th century. This is the way we were in our growing up, and in our marrying, and in our living, and in our dying. Now we'll get back to Grover's Corners. You can hear the choir practice going on in the Congregational Church. The children are at home doing their schoolwork. The day is running down like a tired clock.
All right now. Do it again. And remember, ladies, music came into the world to give pleasure. Now, try it again. Only good when it's loud. You leave loudness to the Methodists. You couldn't beat them even if you wanted. Now again. show your hands. That'll be fine. That'll be right now. Once again now. Art thou weary? Art thou languid? It's a question, ladies and gentlemen. Make it talk.
George, can you come down a minute?
Yes, Pa. And remember, on Sunday, take the second verse real soft, sort of die out at the end.
George, make yourself comfortable. I'll only keep you a minute. George, how old are you?
Me? I'm 16, almost 17.
What are you planning to do after school's over?
Why, you know, Pa. I want to be a farmer on Uncle Luke's farm.
You'll be willing, will you, to get up early, to feed and milk the stock, and be able to hoe and hay all day?
Sure I will. What do you mean, Pa?
Well, George, while I was in my office today, I heard a funny sound. And guess what it was? It was your mother chopping wood. There you see your mother getting up early every morning, cooking meals all day long, washing and ironing, and still she has to go to the backyard and chop wood. I suppose she just got tired of asking you, and just gave up and decided it was easier to do it herself. And yet you eat her meals, you wear the nice clothes she keeps for you, and you run off and play baseball. Like she's some kind of hired hand. We keep her on the house, but we don't like very much. I knew all I had to do was call it to your attention. Here's the handkerchief. George, I've decided to increase your spending money 25 cents a week. Not, of course, for chopping wood for your mother, because that's the sort of present you give her. But because you're getting older, and I imagine you can find a lot of things to do with it.
Thanks, Pa.
Now, let's see. Tomorrow is payday. You can count on it. That means Rebecca will probably want some, too. I wonder what could have happened to your mother. Quiet practice has never taken this long before.
Oh, it's only 8:30, Pa.
Don't know why she's in that old player anyway. She ain't got any more of a force than an old crow. And traipsing around the streets at this hour of the night. About time you retire, son, huh?
Yes, Pa.
Potato weather for sure.
I didn't want to say a word about it in front of the others, but now we're alone. Why, it's the worst scandal that ever was in this town.
What?
Simon Stimson.
Now, Luella.
But, Julia, to have the organist of the church drink and drunk year after year.
Luella.
Now, Julia, you know he was drunk tonight.
Now, Luella, we all know about Mr. Stimson and his troubles. But Dr. Ferguson knows all about his problems as well. And if he chooses to keep him on there in his job, well, the only thing the rest of us can do is just not to notice it.
Not to notice it? It's getting worse.
Well, it's getting better.
Oh, I've read as usual. And what were you girls gossiping about tonight?
Oh, believe me, there was something to gossip about.
Simon Stintz was far gone, wasn't he?
The worst I've ever seen him. How will that end, Frank? Dr. Ferguson can't forgive him forever.
Well, I guess I know more about Simon Stintz's affairs than anybody else in this town. Some people aren't made for small town life. Don't know how they'll end, but there's nothing we can do about it, but just leave it alone. Now, let's get in.
No, not yet. Frank, I'm worried about you.
What are you worried about?
Well, I think it's my duty to make sure that you make plans to go get a rest. And if I get that legacy, I'm going to insist on it.
No, Julia, there's no sense in going over that again.
Frank, you're just unreasonable.
Now, let's get in. Before you know, you'll catch a cold. By the way, I gave George a piece of my mind tonight. You'll have your wood shop for a while anyway. No, Julia. Let's start getting upstairs.
Well, it seems like there's always so much to pick up around here. You know, Mrs. Fairchild locks her front door every night. All those people in that part of town do.
They're all getting silly about it. They've got nothing fit to burn. That's the trouble with them. And everybody knows it.
There's only room for one at this window.
Well, let me just look a minute.
Use your own window.
I did, but there's no moon there. George, do you know, I think the moon's getting nearer and nearer, and there'll be a big explosion.
Rebecca, you don't know anything. If the moon were getting nearer, the man that sit up all night with telescopes would see it first, and they'd tell us about it. And it'd be in all the newspapers.
George, is the moon shining on South America, Canada, and half the whole world?
Well, it probably is.
9:30. Most of the lights in town are out. There's Constable Warren trying a few doors on Main Street. Here comes Editor Webb after putting his newspaper to bed.
Evening, Bill. Quite a moon.
Hey, up.
All quiet tonight?
Hey, up. I've seen Simon Stinson rolling around a bit, but saw his wife moving out to hunt for him. So I looked the other way. Well, here he comes now.
Good evening, Simon. Town seems to have settled down for the night pretty well. Good evening. Town seems to have settled down. Guess we better do the same, Simon. Can I walk a ways with you? Good night.
I don't know how that's going to end, Mr. Quick.
Well, you've seen a peck of trouble.
gone by. The sun has come up over 1,000 times. Summers and winters have cracked the mountains a little bit more, and the rains have brought down some of the dirt. Some babies that weren't even born before have begun talking regular sentences already. And a number of people who thought they were ripe, young, and spry have noticed they can't bound up a flight of stairs like they used to without their hearts fluttering a little. All that can happen in 1,000 days. Nature's been pushing and trying in other ways too. A number of young people fell in love and got married. Yes, the mountain got bit away a few fractions of an inch. Millions of gallons of water have passed by the mill. And here and there, a new home was set up under a roof. Almost everybody in the world gets married. You know what I mean? In our town, there aren't hardly any exceptions. Most everybody climbs into their graves married. The first act was called the daily life. This act is called love and marriage. So, it's 3 years later. It's 1904. It's July 7th, just after high school commencement. Well, that's the time of year most of our young people jump up and get married. As soon as they pass their last examinations in solid geometry and Cicero's orations, looks like they suddenly feel themselves fit to get married. It's early morning again. Only this time, it's been raining. It's been pouring and thundering. Mrs. Gibbs' garden, Mrs. Webb's over here, drenched. All those bean poles and pea vines, drenched. All yesterday over there on Main Street, the rain looked like curtains being blown along. You know now, might begin again any minute. There's the 5:10 train for Boston. And there's Mrs. Gibbs and Mrs. Webb come downstairs to get breakfast, just as if this were an ordinary day. Now, I don't have to point out to the women in the audience that both these ladies you see before you, both these ladies cooked 3 meals a day, one of them for 20 years and the other for 40, and no summer vacation. They raised 2 children apiece, washed, cleaned the house, and never had a nervous breakdown. Never thought themselves hard used either. It's like what one of those Middle West poets said. You got to love life to have life, and you got to have life to love life. It's what they call a vicious circle.
Get out, Bessie.
Here comes Howie Newsom and Bessie delivering the milk. And here's Cy Crowell delivering the papers like his brother before him.
Morning, Howie.
Morning, Si. Anything in the papers I ought to know?
Not so much, except for losing just about the best baseball pitcher Grover's Corners ever had.
I reckon he is.
And now all he'll be doing is pitching hay.
Oh, Bessie, guess I can stop to talk if I have a mind to.
He could hit, too, and run bases.
Well, mighty fine ball player.
I don't see how he could give up a thing like that just to get married. Would you have, Howie?
Can't tell, Si. Never had no talent that way. Morning, Howie. Hello, Bill. You're up early.
Morning, Miss
George Gibbs retiring from baseball.
Oh, that's the way it goes, Si. But back in '84, we had a player, George Gibbs couldn't have touched him. Name of Hank Todd. Oh, wonderful player. And moved to Maine, became a parson or something. How's the weather, Howie?
Oh, it ain't bad. Think maybe it'll clear up for good.
Yeah. Bill? Howie?
Morning, Miss Gibbs.
Good morning, Howie.
Too bad about the weather. The rain is so heavy, think maybe it'll clear up?
Oh, I certainly hope so.
How much do you want today?
Let's see, I'm expecting a house full of relations, so I guess 3 of milk and 2 of cream.
2 of cream and 3 of milk. My wife says to tell you, we hope they'll be happy. No, they will.
Thanks a lot. Tell your wife we hope she can get there.
Maybe she can. You should get there if she can. Morning, Miss Webb.
Morning, Mr. Newsom. You know, I told you 4 quarts milk, but would you spare me an extra?
Yes, sir. And 2 of cream?
We'll start raining again, Howie.
Well, I was just saying to Miss Gibbs is how it might clear up. Miss Newsom told me special to tell you, Miss Webb, is how we hope they'll be happy. No, they will.
Thank you, and thank Mrs. Newsom, and we expect to see the both of you at church later.
We hope to get there all right. Couldn't miss that.
Well, Ma, the day has come. You're losing one of your kids.
Don't say another word. I feel like crying every minute.
Come on, Bessie.
Drink your coffee.
Room's up shaving himself. Only there ain't an awful lot to shave. Whistling and singing like he's glad to leave us. Every now and then, he says to the mirror, I do. But he don't sound convincing.
Oh, Frank, I don't know how he'll manage. All these years I've arranged his clothes and seen to it his feet are dry and he has warm things on. Frank, they're too young. Emily won't think of such things. Why, he'll catch his death of cold within a week.
I remember my wedding morning, Julia.
Don't start, Frank.
I was the skittish young fellow in the state of New Hampshire. Thought I'd made a mistake for sure. But when I saw you walking down that aisle, I thought you were the prettiest girl I'd ever seen. Only trouble was, I'd never seen you before. And there I was in the Congregational Church, marrying a total stranger.
How do you think I felt? Weddings are terrible things. Farces, that's what they are. Here, I made you something.
Why, Julia, Hershey French toast?
Oh, it's easy to make, and I had to do something.
Julia, how'd you sleep last night?
Well, I heard plenty of the hours struck off.
Oh, yeah? I get a shock every time I think of George setting out to be a married man. That great gangling thing. I tell you, Julia, there's nothing so terrifying in the world as a son. The relation between a father and a son is the damnedest, awkwardest.
Oh, mother and daughter's no picnic, let me tell you.
I suppose they'll have a lot of troubles. But that's none of our business. Everybody's got a right to their own troubles.
Hey, people were meant to live 2 by 2. It ain't natural to be lonesome.
You know one of the things I was scared of when I married you, Julia?
I'll go along with you.
I was scared we wouldn't have enough material for conversation to last us more than a few weeks. I thought we'd be running out to have our meals in total silence. That's a fact. We've been conversing now for over 20 years without any noticeable burn spells.
Well, good weather, bad weather. It ain't very choice, but I always find something to say. Now, have you heard Rebecca stirring around upstairs?
No, the only day out of the year she's not managing everybody's business out there. She's hiding in her room. Got the idea she's crying.
Oh, this has got to stop. Rebecca! Rebecca, come down and get some breakfast.
Good morning, everybody. Only 4 more hours to live.
Where are you going?
I'm just stepping across the grass to see my girl.
You're not going outside without your galoshes on. It's raining torrents. You don't go out this house unless you're prepared for it.
Ma, it's just a step.
No, I'll not have you catching cold and you coughing all through the service.
George,
did your mother tell you?
From tomorrow on, you can kill yourself in all types of weather. But while you live under my roof, you'll live wisely, thank you. Now, perhaps Mrs. Webb isn't used to callers at 7 in the morning. Why don't you have a cup of coffee first?
I'll be back in a minute. Good morning, Mother Webb.
Oh, good morning, George. Goodness, you frightened me. Now, George, I hate to say it. You can stand here a minute out of the rain, but I can't ask you in.
Why not?
George, you know well as I do the groom can't see his bride on his wedding day, not until he sees her at church.
That's just a superstition. Good morning, Mr. Webb.
Oh, good morning, George.
Mr. Webb, you don't believe in that superstition, do you?
Well, there's a lot of common sense in superstitions, George.
Millions have followed it, George. Don't you be the first to fly in the face of it.
How is Emily?
She hasn't waked up yet. I haven't heard a sound out of her.
Emily's asleep?
No wonder we were up all night sewing and packing. George, tell you what I'll do. Come here. You sit down with Mr. Webb and have a cup of coffee, and I'll go up and see that Emily doesn't come down and surprise you. There's some bacon over there too, but don't be long about it, George.
Well, George, how are you?
I'm fine. Mr. Webb, what common sense could there be in a superstition like that?
Well, George, on the morning of the wedding, a girl's head is likely to be filled with, well, you know, clothes and one thing or another. Don't you think that's probably it?
Yes. I never thought of that.
Girls have to be mighty nervous on her wedding day.
Gee, I wish a person could get married without all that marching up and down.
Every man that's ever lived has wished that, George. But it doesn't do any good. It's the women folk who build up weddings, my boy. For quite a while, the women have had it all their own way. Yes, a man looks mighty small at a wedding, George. All those women standing there, shoulder to shoulder, making sure that knot gets tied in a mighty public way.
Well, you believe in it, don't you, Mr. Webb?
Yes. Oh, yes, yes, of course. Don't misunderstand me, George. Marriage is a wonderful thing, a wonderful thing. Don't you forget it.
No, sir. Mr. Webb,
Yes?
how old were you when you got married?
Let's see. I've been away to college, and I took a while to kind of settle down. Oh, but Mrs. Webb, she wasn't much older than Emily is. But you know, George, age really doesn't have much to do with it. Compared with other things.
What were you going to say, Mr. Webb?
Oh, I don't know. Was I going to say something? I was thinking the other night, George, about what my father told me when I got married. Yes, he said. Charles, he said. Start out by letting her know who's the boss. Give an order. Just to see if she'll obey. Oh, then he said, if anything about her bothers you, her conversation or anything, get up and leave the house. That'll make it clear to her. Oh, finally, he said, never let your wife know how much money you have. Never.
Well, I couldn't exactly do that, Mr. Webb.
So I followed the opposite of his advice, and I've been happy ever since. Let that be a lesson to me, George. Never ask anyone for advice on personal matters. Oh, George, are you going to raise chickens on your farm?
What?
Are you going to raise chickens on your farm?
Yes. My Uncle Luke has never gone in for chickens much, but I've been figuring
A
on...
book came into the office the other day on the philo system of raising chickens. I wish you'd read it. You know, I'm thinking of starting in a small way myself, out in the backyard. I'm going to put an incubator down in the cellar.
Charles Webb, are you still talking about that incubator? I thought you two would be talking about things worthwhile.
boy some advice, I'll just go upstairs.
George, Emily's got to come down and eat her breakfast. She's been to her love, but she doesn't want to lay her eyes on you. So, come on. Bye, George.
Goodbye.
Guess you never heard about that older superstition, Myrtle.
What do you mean, Charles?
Since the caveman, no bridegroom should see his father-in-law the day of the wedding or marriage. Remember that.
Thank you very much, Mr. and Mrs. Webb. Now, I have to interrupt again here. You see, we want to know how all this began. This wedding, this plan to spend a lifetime together. I'm awful interested in how big things like that begin. You know how it is. You're 21 or 22, and you make some decisions. Then, whoosh, you're 70. You've been a lawyer for 50 years, and that white-haired lady by your side has eaten over 50,000 meals with you. How do such things begin? George and Emily are going to show you now the conversation they had when they first knew that, as the saying goes, they were meant for one another. But before they do that, I want you to try to remember what it was like when you were very young, and particularly the days when you were first in love, when you were like a person sleepwalking, and you didn't quite see the street you were walking in. You didn't quite hear everything that said to you. You're just a little bit crazy. Will you remember that, please? Now, they'll be coming out of high school at 3 o'clock. George has just been elected president of the senior class. And as this is June, that means he'll be president of the senior class all next year. And Emily has just been elected secretary and treasurer. Yeah, there they are, coming down Main Street now.
I can't, Lois. I've got to go home. Oh, Ernestine. Ernestine, can you come over tonight and do Latin? Isn't that sort of the worst thing? Well, tell your mother you have to. Goodbye, Helen. Goodbye, Fred.
Oh, Emily, can I carry the books home for you?
Well, thank you. It isn't far.
Excuse me 1 minute, Emily, will you? Tell Bob if I'm a little late, start practice. And give her some long high ones.
Goodbye, Lizzie.
Goodbye. I'm awful glad you were elected too, Emily.
Thank you.
Emily, why are you mad at me?
I'm not mad at you.
You've been treating me so funny lately.
Well, since you asked, I might as well say it right out. George, oh, goodbye, Miss Corcoran.
Goodbye, Miss Corcoran. What is it?
I don't like the whole change that's come over you in the last year. I'm sorry if that hurts your feelings, but I just got to tell the truth and shame the devil.
The change? What do you mean?
Well, up to a year ago, I used to like you a lot, and I used to watch you while you did everything, because we've been friends so long. But then you began spending all your time at baseball, and you never stopped to speak to anybody, not to really speak. Not even to your own family you didn't. And George is a fact. Ever since you were elected captain, you've acted awful stuck up and conceited. And all the girls say so. It hurts me to hear them say it, but I've got to agree with them a little because it's true.
Gosh, Emily, I never thought that such a thing was happening to me. Well, I guess it's hard for a fella
right now that I'm not perfect. That it's easy for girls to be perfect because, well, we girls are more nervous. No, I'm sorry I said all that about you. I don't know why I said it.
Emily.
Now I can see it's not the truth at all, and it's suddenly not even important.
Emily, would you like an ice cream soda or something before you go home?
Yes? I would.
Hello, George. Hello, Emily. What do you have? Why, Emily, what you been crying about?
Oh, Mr. Morgan, she got an awful scare. That hardware store wagon almost ran over her. Everybody in town says Tom Huckins drives like a crazy man.
Here, take a good drink of water, Emily. You look all shook up. I tell you, you got to look both ways before you cross Main Street these days. It's worse every year. What do you have?
I'll have a strawberry fast sweet, Mr. Morgan.
No, Emily, have a soda with me.
Well,
2 strawberry ice cream sodas, Mr. Morgan.
2 strawberry ice cream sodas. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I want to tell you, there are 225 horses in Grover's Corners this minute I'm talking to you. State inspector was in here yesterday. Now they're bringing in these automobiles. Best thing to do is just stay home. I remember when dogs used to sleep in the middle of the street all day. Nothing ever come along to disturb them. There you are. Yes, Mrs. Ellis, be with you in a minute. What can I do for you?
they're so expensive.
No, don't you think of that, Emily. We are celebrating election. And then, do you know what else I'm celebrating?
No.
I'm celebrating because I've got a friend who tells me all the things that ought to be told.
Oh, George, don't think of that. I don't know why
No,
I
Emily,
said it.
you stick to it. I'm glad you spoke to me like you did. But you see, I'm going to change so quick. You bet I'm going to change. And Emily, I want to ask you a favor.
What?
If I go away to State Agricultural College next year, will you write me a letter once in a while?
I certainly will. I certainly will, George. Seems like being away 3 years, you sort of get out of touch with things. Maybe letters from Grover's Corners wouldn't be so interesting after a while. Grover's Corners isn't such an important place when you think of all New Hampshire. But I think it's a very nice town.
The day wouldn't come when I wouldn't want to know everything about our town. I know that's true.
Well, I'll try to make the letters interesting.
You know, whenever I meet a farmer, I ask him if he thinks it's important to go to agricultural school to be a good farmer.
Why, George.
Yep. And some of them say it's even a waste of time. You can get all that stuff anyway in the pamphlets the government sends out. And my Uncle Luke is getting old. He's about ready for me to start in taking over his farm tomorrow, if I could.
My.
And like you said, being gone all that time, in other towns, meeting other people. Gosh, if anything like that can happen, I don't want to go away. I guess new people probably aren't any better than old ones. I'll bet they almost never are. Emily, I feel you're as good a friend as I've got. I don't need to go away and meet the people in other towns.
But George, maybe it's important for you to go and learn about cattle judging and soils and those sorts of things. Of course, I don't know.
Emily, I'm going to make up my mind right now. I won't go. I'll tell Pa about it tonight.
But George, I don't see why you have to decide right now. It's a whole year away.
Emily, I'm glad you spoke to me about that fall in my you said that I wasn't noticing people and you, for instance. Why, you said you were watching me while I did everything. I was doing the same about you all the time. Well, sure, I always thought of you as one of the chief people I thought about. I always made sure where you were sitting on the bleachers and who you were with. And for 3 days now, I've tried to walk home with you. But something's always got in the way. Yesterday, I was standing over by the wall waiting for you. And you walked home with Miss Corcoran.
Why, George, life's awful funny. How could I have known that?
Listen, Emily, I'm going to tell you why I'm not going to agricultural school. I think once you've found a person you're very fond of, I mean, a person that's fond of you too, and likes you well enough to be interested in your character, well, I just think that's as important as college is, and even more so. That's what I think.
I think it's awfully too, George.
Emily,
Yes, George?
Emily, if I do improve and make a big change, would you be? I mean, could you be?
I am now, and I always have been.
Well, then I guess this is an important talk we've been having.
Yes. Yes.
Wait just a minute, and I'll walk you home. Mr. Morgan, I have to go home and get the money to pay you for this.
What's that? George Gibbs, do you mean to tell me?
Yes, but I have reasons. Look, here's my watch to keep until I'm back with the money.
That's all right, George. Keep your watch. I'll trust you.
I'll be back in 5 minutes.
I'll trust you 10 years, George. Not a day over. Got all over your shock, Emily?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Morgan.
I'm ready.
Now, we'll get on to the wedding. Music, please. There are a lot of things to be said about a wedding. There are a lot of thoughts that go on during a wedding. We can't get them all into one wedding, naturally. Especially not into a wedding in Grover's Corners, where weddings are mighty short and plain. In this play, I take the part of the minister. That gives me the right to say a few things more. Yes, for a while now, the play gets pretty serious. You see, some churches say that marriage is a sacrament. I don't quite know what that means, but I can guess. It's like Mrs. Gibbs said a few minutes ago. People are supposed to live 2 by 2. This is a good wedding. The people are pretty young, but they come from a good state, and they chose right. The real hero of this scene isn't on stage at all. You European fellow said, every time a child is born into the world, it's nature's attempt to make a perfect human being. Well, we've seen nature pushing and striving for some time now. We all know she's interested in quantity. But I think she's interested in quality, too. Maybe she's trying to make another good governor for the state of New Hampshire. That's what Emily hopes. And don't forget the other witnesses at this wedding, the ancestors. Millions of them. Most of them set out to live 2 by 2. Millions of them. Well, that's all my sermon. It wasn't very long anyway.
It came over me. There was Emily eating her breakfast as she's done for the last 17 years. And she's going out of my house. Oh, it's cruel. Sending girls out into marriages like that. It's cruel, I know, but I couldn't bring myself to say anything. I was blind as a bat myself when I went into it. The whole world's wrong. That's what's the matter. There they come.
Hey, George! You! Woo! Look at him, fellas. He's scared to death.
Oh, George!
George!
You don't have to look so innocent, you old geezer. We know what you're
Yeah,
thinking.
go do it, big boy. You old geezer, you.
All right. That'll do. That's enough of that.
Woo!
There used to be an awful lot of that kind of thing at weddings in the old days, Rome and later. We're more civilized now. So they say.
George, what's the matter?
I don't want to grow old. Why is everybody pushing me so?
Well, George, you wanted it.
No, Ma, listen.
George, now stop it. You're a man now.
Ma, listen. For the last time I asked you, all I want to do is to be a fella.
Now, George, what if someone should hear you? Why, I'm ashamed of you.
What? Where's Emily?
Oh, gosh, you gave me quite a turn.
Cheer up, Ma. I'm getting married.
Oh, let me catch my breath.
Now, Ma, you say Thursday nights. Emily and I are coming over every Thursday night for dinner. You see? Ma, look all kind. What are you crying for? Come on. You've got to get ready for this.
I never felt so alone in my whole life. George over there. I hate him. I wish I were dead. Papa. Papa.
Emily, don't be upset.
Papa, I don't want to get married.
Everything's all right.
Papa, why can't I stay for a while just as I am? Let's go away.
No, Emily. Now stop and think a minute.
Papa, don't you remember what you used to say? All the time, that I was your girl. There must be lots of places we can go to. I can keep house for you.
No, Emily. You mustn't think such things. Now, you're just nervous. Now, George, come here a minute. You're marrying the best young fellow in the whole world. George here is a fine fellow.
to do my best. I need you, Emily. I love you.
Well, if you love me, help me. All I want is someone to love me.
Emily, I will. I'll try.
And I mean forever, do you hear? Forever and forever.
Come, they're waiting for us. Now, you know it'll be all right. Quick.
Do you, George, take this woman, Emily, to be your wedded wife, to have and to hold from this day forward?
Perfectly lovely wedding. Loveliest wedding I ever saw. I do so love a good wedding, don't you? Doesn't she make a lovely bride?
I do.
Do you, Emily, take this man, George, to be your wedded husband?
I don't know when I've seen such a lovely wedding. But I always cry. I don't know why, but I always will cry. I just like young people to be happy, don't you? Oh, I think it's lovely.
I've married 200 couples in my day. Do I believe in it? I don't know. I suppose I do. M marries N, millions of them. The cottage, the go-kart, Sunday afternoon drives in the Ford, the first rheumatism, the grandchildren, the second rheumatism, the deathbed, the reading of the will. Once in 1,000 times, it's interesting.
Aren't they a lovely couple? I've never been to such a nice wedding. I'm sure they'll be happy. I always say, happiness, that's the great thing. The important thing is to be
That's all the second act, folks. This time, 9 years have gone by, friends. Summer 1913. Gradual changes in Grover's Corners. Horses are getting rarer. Farmers coming into town now with Fords. Everybody locks their house doors now at night. Ain't been any burglars in town yet, but everybody's heard about them. You'd be surprised, though. On the whole, things don't change much around here. This is certainly an important part of Grover's Corners. It's on a hilltop, a windy hilltop. Lots of sky, lots of clouds, and lots of sun and moon and stars. You come up here on a fine afternoon and you can see range on range of hills. Awful blue they are. Up there by Lake Sunapee and Lake Winnipesaukee. And if you go way up, you can see the White Mountains and Mount Washington, where North Conway is. And of course, our favorite mountain, Mount Monadnock, is right here. And all around it lie these towns: Jaffrey, North Jaffrey, Peterborough, and Dublin. And there, quite a ways down, is Grover's Corners. Yes, beautiful spot up here. Mountain laurel and lilacs. I often wonder why people like to be buried in Woodlawn and Brooklyn when they might pass the same time up here in New Hampshire. Over here are the old stones. 1660, 1670. Strong-minded people that come a long ways to be independent. Summers, people walk around there laughing at the funny words on the tombstones. I guess it don't do any harm. And genealogists come up from Boston, get paid by city people for looking up their ancestors. Well, they want to make sure they're daughters of the American Revolution and of the Mayflower. Well, I guess that don't do any harm either. Over there are some Civil War veterans, iron flags on their graves. New Hampshire boys had a notion that the Union ought to be kept together, though they had never seen more than 50 miles of it themselves. All they knew was the name, friends. The United States of America. The United States of America. They went and died about it. This here is the new part of the cemetery. There's your friend, Mrs. Gibbs. And Mr. Simpson, organist at the Congregational Church. And Mrs. Soames, who enjoyed that wedding so remember? Oh, and a lot of others. Editor Webb's boy Wallace, whose appendix burst while he's on a Boy Scout trip to Crawford Notch. Yes, an awful lot of sorrow has sort of quieted it down. People just wild with grief have come up to this hill. And then other times, sunny days, rainy days, snow. We all know what it's like. A lot of thoughts come up here, night and day. But there's no post office. Now, there are some things we all know, but we don't take them out and look at them very often. We all know that something is eternal. And it ain't houses, and it ain't names, and it ain't earth, and it ain't even the stars. Everybody knows in their bones that something is eternal. And that something has to do with human beings. All the greatest people ever lived have been telling us that for 5,000 years. And you'd be surprised how people are always letting go of that fact. There's something way down deep that's eternal about every human being. You know, the dead don't stay interested in us living people for very long. adventures they had, and the things they suffered, and the people they loved. They get weaned away from her. That's the way I feel. Weaned away. Yes, they stay here while the earth part of them burns away, burns out. And all that time, they're slowly getting indifferent to what's going on in Rose's homes. They're waiting. They're waiting for something they feel is coming. Something important and great. Aren't they waiting for the eternal part in them to come out? Clear? Some of the things they're going to say maybe will hurt your feelings, but that's the way it is. Husband and wife, mother and daughter, enemy and enemy, money and miser, all those terribly important things kind of grow pale around here. And what's left? What's left when memory's gone? And your identity is slain. Well, here are some living people. There's Joe Stoddard, our undertaker, supervising a new made grave. And here comes Sarah Craig, a Grover's Corners girl that left town to go out west.
Good afternoon, Joe Stoddard.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon. Say, don't I know you?
I'm Sarah Craig.
Oh, gracious sakes alive, of all people. I should have known you'd be back for the funeral. You've been gone a long time, Sarah.
I've been away over 12 years. We're in business out in Buffalo now, Joe. But I was back east when I got word of my cousin's death. So I thought I'd combine things a little and come back and see the old home. Well, you look well.
Yes, yes. Can't complain. Very sad, our journey today, Sarah.
Yeah.
Yes. I always say I hate to supervise when a young person is taken. They should be along here pretty soon. I had to come up early. Left my son supervising at the home.
Oh, Farmer McCarthy. I used to do chores for him after school. He had lumbago.
Yes, we brought Farmer McCarthy up here a number of years ago now.
Why, here's my Aunt Julia. I'd forgotten that she'd... Of course.
Yes, Doc Gibbs lost his wife 3 years ago, just about this time. And today's another bad blow for him, too.
That's my sister Carrie's girl, Sarah Craig.
I'm always uncomfortable when they're around.
Now, Simon.
Do they choose their own verses much, Joe?
No, not usual. Mostly the bereaved pick a verse.
Doesn't sound like Aunt Julia. Well, there aren't many of the Hersey sisters left now, I suppose. Let me see, I wanted to look at my mother's and father's grave.
Oh, with the Craigs over there in Avenue F.
He was organist at church, wasn't he? Drank a lot, we used to say.
Nobody was supposed to know about it. He'd seen a peck of trouble. Took his own life, you know.
Oh, did he?
Hung himself in the attic. They tried to hush it up, but of course it got around. He wrote his own epitaph. You can see it there. It ain't a verse exactly.
Why, it's just some notes of music. What is it?
I wouldn't know. It was wrote up in the Boston papers, though.
What did she die of, Joe?
Who?
My cousin.
room among the Gibbses anymore. They're opening up a whole new Gibbs section out there in Avenue B. Well, you'll have to excuse me now. I see they're coming.
Who is it, Julia? My daughter-in-law, Emily Webb. Well, I declare. The road up here must have been awfully muddy. When did you die of, Julia? In childbirth. Oh, childbirth. I'd forgotten about that. Ah, wasn't life awful? Oh, and wonderful.
Wonderful, was it?
Simon, now remember. I remember Emily's wedding. Wasn't that a lovely? I remember her reading the class poems at graduation exercises. Emily was one of the brightest girls ever graduating from high school. I've heard Principal Wilson say so time after time. I visited them at their farm just before I died. Perfectly beautiful farm. It was on the same road that we lived on.
Yeah, right, smart farm.
Oh, I always liked that hymn. I was hoping they'd sing a hymn.
Hello.
Hello, Emily.
Hello, Mother Gibbs.
Emily.
Hello. It's raining.
Yes.
They'll be gone soon. Just rest yourself. Seems thousands and thousands of years since Papa, remember that was my favorite hymn. Well, I wish I'd been here a long time. I don't like being new here. Oh, how do you do, Mr. Simpson?
How do you do, Emily?
Oh, Mother Gibbs, George and I have made that farm into just the best place you ever saw. We thought of you all the time. We wanted to show you the new barn and a great long cement drinking fountain for the stock. We bought that out of the money you left us.
I did?
Yes, do you remember? The legacy you left us? Why, it was over $350.
Yes. Yes, Emily.
Mother Gibbs, there's a patent device on this drinking fountain so that it never overflows and never sinks below a certain mark they have there. It's fine. We won't be the same to George without me, but it's a lovely farm. Why people don't understand, do they?
No, dear, not very much.
They're sort of shut up in little boxes. I feel as though I knew them last 1,000 years ago. Well, my boy's spending the day at Mrs. Carter's. Oh, Mr. Carter, my little boy is spending the day at your house. Yes, he loves it there. Oh, Mother Gibbs, we have a Ford, too. Never gives us any trouble. I don't drive, though. Mother Gibbs, when does this feeling go away? Of being one of them. Just wait and be patient. I know. Look, they're finished. They're going. Look, Mother Gibbs is bringing some of my flowers to you. He looks just like George, doesn't he? I never realized before how troubled and how in the dark life persons are. Look at him. I love him so.
you watch it, you see the things that they down there never know. You see the future. You know what's going to happen afterwards.
But is that painful? Why?
That isn't the only reason why you shouldn't do it. When you've been here longer, you'll see that, well, our life here is to forget all that and think only of what is to come and to be ready for what is ahead. When you've been here longer, you'll understand.
But Mother Gibbs, how can I ever forget that life? It's all I've known. It's all I've had.
Emily, it isn't wise. Really, it isn't.
But it's a thing I must know for myself. I'll choose a happy day at least.
No. Please choose an unimportant day. Choose the least important day of your life. It will be important enough.
Well, but it can't be since I was married, or since the baby was born. I can choose a birthday at least, can't I? I choose my 12th birthday.
All right? It's February 11th, 1899. A Tuesday. You want any special time of day?
No, I want the whole day.
We'll begin at dawn. You remember that it had been snowing for several days, but it stopped the night before and they had begun clearing the roads. The sun's coming up.
Look, it's Main Street. And there's Mr. Morgan's drugstore before he changed it. And there's the livery stable.
Yes, it's 1899. This is 14 years ago.
Oh, this is the town I used to know as a little girl. Look, there's that little white fence that used to be around our house. I've forgotten that. I love it so. Are they inside?
Yes, your mother will be coming downstairs in a minute to make breakfast.
Will she?
And you remember, your father had been away for a couple of days. He came back on the early morning train.
No.
He'd been back to his college to make a speech in western New York at Clinton.
Look, there's Howie Newsom. And there's our policeman. And he's dead. He died.
Whoa, Bessie.
Morning, Howie.
Oh, Bill, you're up early.
Hey, I've got a call to go down to Polish Town, saying somebody got drunk, laid down the snowdrift, and almost froze to death. When I woke him up, thought he was in his own bed.
Look, there's Joe Brown. Morning, Howard.
Morning, Joe.
Morning, Joe.
Children, Wally, Emily, time to get up.
Mom, I'm here. Oh, how young Mama looks. I don't remember Mama ever being that young.
You can come dressed by the kitchen fire if you like, but hurry. Oh, morning, Mr. Newsom.
Morning, Miss Glen.
Oh, it's cold.
Yep, head below by my barn.
Take your bed. Keep yourself wrapped up.
Mama, I can't find my blue hair ribbon anywhere.
Just open your eyes, dear. I laid it out special for you on the dresser.
Come on, Bessie, get up.
Yeah. Yeah.
Morning, Bill.
Morning, Mr. Gibbs. Mr. Witt. You're up early.
Yeah, just back from my old college in upstate New York. Been any trouble here?
Oh, down Polish Town, very near froze to death.
We must get that in the paper.
Well, 'tweren't much.
Morning, Mother.
Oh, how to go, Charles?
Oh, okay, I guess. I told him to do things. Everything all right here?
Yes, can't think of anything that's happened special. Been right cold. Howie Newsom says it's 10 below over to his barn.
Well, it's colder than that at Hamilton College. Students' ears were falling off. Ooh, hey, Christian. Any mistakes in the newspaper?
None that I noticed. But coffee's ready when you want it. found it on the doorstep this morning when I brought in the milk. George Gibbs. He must have come over pretty early in the cold. It's right nice of him.
George, I've forgotten that.
Now chew that bacon good and slow. It'll help keep you warm on a cold day.
Mama, just look at me in one moment, as if you really saw me. Mama, 14 years have gone by. I'm dead. Mama, you're a grandmother. I married George Gibbs. Mama, Wally's dead. His appendix burst on a camping trip to Crawford Notch. We felt just terrible about it, don't you remember? But now, just for a moment now, we're all together. Just for a moment, let's be happy. Let's look at one another.
Oh, that and the yellow paper I found in the attic among your grandmother's things. You're old enough to wear it now, and I thought you'd like it.
Mama, you shouldn't have. Lovely. Just what I wanted. Beautiful.
Well, I'm so happy that you like it. Hunted all over for it. Your Aunt Nora couldn't find one in Boston, so I had to send it all the way to New York. Wally's got something for you, too. He made it in manual training class, and he's very proud of it, so you be sure to make a big fuss about it. Oh, your father has something for you, too, though I don't know at all what it is. Oh, shh, right now.
Where's my girl? Where's my birthday girl?
I can't go on. It goes so fast. We don't have time to look at one another. I never realized. So all that was going on, and we never stopped to notice. Take me back, up the hill to my grave. But first, wait. One more look. Goodbye. Goodbye, world. Goodbye, Grover's Corner. Mama and Papa. Goodbye, the clock's ticking. And my butternut tree. And Mama's sunflowers. And food, and coffee, and new iron dresses and hot baths, and sleeping and waking up. Oh, Earth, you're too wonderful for anyone to realize you. Do any human beings ever realize birds while they live it? Every minute?
No. Saints and poets, maybe. They do some.
I'm ready to go back now. Were you happy? No, I should have listened to you. That's all human beings are, just flying people.
Look, it's clearing up. The stars are coming out.
Oh, Mr. Stinson, I should have listened to them.
Yes. Now you know. Now you know. That's the happy existence you wanted to go back to. To move without a cloud of ignorance. To go up and down, trampling on the feelings of those about you. To spend and waste time as though you had 1,000,000 years. To be always at the mercy of one self-centered passion or another. Yes, now you know. That's what it was to be alive. Ignorance, blindness.
That ain't the whole truth, and you know it, Simon Stinson. Emily, look at that star. I forget its name.
Oh, my boy Joel was a sailor. Used to know 'em all. Used to sit out on the porch evenings and name 'em all. Yup, just wonderful.
Oh, mighty good company.
Yes. Yes, it is.
There's one of them coming.
Goodness.
everybody's asleep in Grover's Corners, there are a few lights on. Shorty Hawkins down at the depot has just watched the Albany train go by. And at the livery stable, somebody's setting up late and talking. Yes, clear enough. There are the stars, doing their old crisscross in the skies. Scholars haven't settled the matter yet, but they seem to think there are no living beings up there, just chalk or fire. Only this one is straining away all the time to make something of itself. The strain's so great that every 16 hours, everybody lies down and gets a rest. 11 o'clock in Grover's Corners. Everybody's resting in Grover's Corners. Tomorrow's going to be another day. You get a good rest too. Good night.